Imagine this. You're walking down a busy street in New York City, and a police officer stops you. And then another officer in a white shirt walks over. And then a third person arrives in a fully pressed uniform with gold stars on the collar. And somehow, without anyone saying a word, every single officer goes quiet, stands a little straighter, and waits for that third person to speak first. And you are standing there thinking, what just happened? Why did everyone stop talking the moment that person arrived? Who exactly is that? And what invisible ladder of power just revealed itself right in front of your eyes? Because what you just witnessed, my friend, is the living, breathing, real-world hierarchy of the United States police rank structure, a system so carefully designed, so deeply layered, and so precise in its purpose that it governs everything from who answers a 911 call at 2 in the morning to who makes the decision to deploy an entire tactical unit during a citywide crisis. And today, we are going to walk through every single rank, from the very bottom to the absolute top, slowly and clearly with real examples, so that by the end of this video, you will never look at a police badge, a uniform, or a collar insignia the same way again. We begin at the very foundation of the entire system, the police recruit, sometimes called a cadet. And this is the person who has applied to join the police force, passed the written exam, survived the physical fitness test, cleared the psychological evaluation, and has now entered the police academy, which in most American cities lasts anywhere from 4 to 6 months of the most intense, structured, physically and mentally demanding training imaginable, where recruits wake before dawn, run miles in formation, learn criminal law, study the Constitution, practice handcuffing, firearms training, emergency driving, and conflict de-escalation, all before they have ever worn a real badge, and this rank carries zero authority on the street. A recruit cannot make arrests, cannot issue citations, and cannot act independently in any law enforcement capacity. They are students of the law, and this is where everything begins, because without this stage, nothing above it would be possible. Once the recruit graduates from the academy, they become a police officer, also called a patrol officer, and this is the rank that most people think of when they think of the police, because these are the men and women you see in black and white patrol cars, responding to calls, walking beats in neighborhoods, pulling over vehicles for traffic violations, responding to domestic disputes, writing accident reports, and serving as the first human face of law enforcement that the public encounters in any emergency. And a patrol officer's badge is the foundation upon which the entire criminal justice system rests, because they are the eyes and ears on the ground, the first responders to every call for help. And in a department like the Los Angeles Police Department, there are thousands of patrol officers working rotating shifts to ensure that the city is never without a law enforcement presence. And within this rank, there are sub-levels. A new officer, fresh out of the academy, is placed on probation for usually 1 year, partnered with a senior officer, and evaluated constantly before being cleared to work independently. Above the patrol officer, though not always above in traditional command hierarchy, sits the detective. And this distinction is important, so pay attention. A detective is a patrol officer who has been promoted or selected based on skills, performance, and sometimes a competitive examination into an investigative role, meaning instead of responding to active calls on patrol, they investigate crimes that have already happened. They work homicide cases, robbery investigations, sex crimes units, financial fraud, narcotics, and missing persons. And while a detective technically holds the same or equivalent rank to a senior officer in terms of pay grade in many departments, they carry significant investigative authority and are addressed as detective as a title of professional respect. And a famous example of this role is the detectives of the Chicago Police Department's Area North Detective Division, who handle complex murder investigations that can span months or even years of painstaking evidence collection, witness interviews, and courtroom preparation. Not every police department in the United States uses the rank of corporal, but in the departments that do, and there are many, particularly in smaller cities and county sheriff offices, the corporal serves as the first step into supervisory responsibility, a bridge between the street-level officer and the formal management structure above. And a corporal might oversee a small team of patrol officers during a shift, take point during a specific operation, or mentor newer officers. And they typically wear 2 chevrons on their sleeve, borrowing from military tradition. And the existence of this rank in some departments and its absence in others is itself a fascinating window into how decentralized American policing really is. There is no single national police force, no uniform national rank structure, and each of the roughly 18,000 law enforcement agencies in the United States has some freedom to organize itself as it sees fit within broad legal frameworks. Now we arrive at the sergeant, and this is one of the most critically important ranks in all of American law enforcement, because the sergeant is the first true supervisory rank, the person who directly manages patrol officers and is responsible for everything those officers do during a shift. Meaning, if an officer under a sergeant's command makes a mistake, uses excessive force, files a report incorrectly, or fails to follow procedure, the sergeant is accountable. And sergeants conduct roll call at the start of each shift, assign patrol zones, respond to major incidents to provide on-scene supervision, review and approve all reports written by their officers, and serve as the first point of internal discipline and guidance. Think of a sergeant as a football team's offensive coordinator, not the player running the ball, but the person making sure every player on the field knows exactly where to go, what to do, and how to do it right. And to become a sergeant, officers must pass a rigorous written promotional examination, accumulate years of on-the-street experience, and survive a competitive review process. Above the sergeant stands the lieutenant, and where a sergeant manages people on the street, a lieutenant manages sergeants. They are supervisors of supervisors, responsible for an entire section or unit within a precinct, such as overseeing all patrol operations for a specific shift across multiple beats, or commanding a specialized unit like the detective bureau or the gang unit. And lieutenants spend considerably more time in administrative roles, writing operational plans, reviewing budgets, attending command meetings, coordinating with other city agencies, while still maintaining enough operational awareness to step in during major incidents. And in large departments like the New York Police Department, a lieutenant might oversee dozens of officers indirectly through the sergeants they command, making their leadership decisions ripple far down the chain with enormous consequences. The captain is the commanding officer of a precinct, a station, or a major division, and this is a rank of significant institutional power. A captain in the NYPD, for example, commands an entire precinct with hundreds of officers, detectives, and supervisors under their authority, is responsible for crime reduction strategies in a specific geographical area, manages the precinct's budget, represents the department to community leaders and elected officials, and is expected to set the entire tone and culture of their command. And captains are the point of contact when politicians call about crime problems in a neighborhood, when community activists demand accountability, and when the press arrives asking questions after a high-profile incident. They are the public face of policing at the precinct level, and they carry that weight every single day. Here, the titles begin to vary significantly by department, but at this level, whether the rank is called inspector, commander, or deputy chief, we are in the realm of senior executive leadership, where the officer is responsible not for one precinct, but for multiple precincts, or for an entire bureau within the department, such as the Patrol Bureau, the Detective Bureau, or the Internal Affairs Bureau. And these officers shape departmental policy, oversee major operational decisions, manage multi-million-dollar budgets, and form the inner circle of leadership that advises the very top of the department. And they are often involved in the most sensitive and complex decisions a police department ever makes: officer-involved shootings, civil unrest responses, federal investigations, and long-term strategic planning. One step below the absolute top sits the assistant chief or deputy superintendent, titles vary, and this officer serves as the second or third in command of the entire department, stepping into the chief's role during absences, overseeing the broadest operational and administrative functions, coordinating between bureaus, and often serving as the primary liaison to the city government and mayor's office. And in cities like Houston, Chicago, and Phoenix, this rank carries enormous real-world authority because decisions made at this level affect thousands of officers and millions of residents simultaneously. And at the very top, the apex of the entire structure, sits the chief of police, or in some major cities, the superintendent or the police commissioner. And this person is the single highest-ranking law enforcement officer in a municipal police department, appointed in most cities by the mayor or city council, accountable to elected government, responsible for everything the department does or fails to do, the face of the department in times of crisis and in times of triumph. And when you watch a press conference after a major crime is solved, or after a controversial incident rocks a city, the person standing at that podium with the most stars on their collar and the heaviest weight behind their eyes, that is the chief. And everything in this entire rank structure exists to support, inform, and ultimately serve the decisions that flow down from that office. So now, the next time you see a police officer on the street, or watch a news conference, or drive by a precinct house, or even watch a police drama on television, you will see it differently, because you now understand that the person in the patrol car answering a call is the foundation. The sergeant supervising that officer is the backbone. The lieutenant coordinating the shift is the framework. The captain commanding the precinct is the pillar. The deputy chiefs and inspectors are the architecture, and the chief standing at the top is the roof that holds everything together. And this structure, imperfect, evolving, challenged, debated, reformed, and refined generation after generation, is the system through which 18,000 law enforcement agencies in this country attempt to maintain order, protect rights, serve communities, and uphold the law. And whether you believe that system needs radical change, measured reform, or strong support, you cannot engage with that conversation honestly unless you first understand how the system is actually built, from the very bottom rung to the very top. And now you do.